On 89, we're going to have a look at two sections in the textbook dealing with significant figures and scientific numbers. Okay, so a lot to cover. Let's see if we can get through it quickly, efficiently. Okay, firstly, significant figures. And there are a couple of issues. The first one is, in a number, where and how many zeros are there? That's a key issue. Where and how many zeros? That's going to determine how many significant figures it has. Okay, next thing is, does a number have a decimal point? So let's go with 0.020. Okay, decimal point there. Now with decimal points, you don't count the numbers at the beginning. Don't count them, but you do count that one. So with a decimal point, don't count any zeros that are happening at the start in a row. Count this one, yes, and the 0 at the end. 2 significant figures. And also another one, 5.30250. Okay, there's no zeros at the beginning, so don't need to worry about them. But there is one in the middle and there is one at the end. So we count both of those. One in the middle, one at the end. So decimal point numbers, count the zeros at the end. So you count this and this, plus all the other numbers that are not zero. So all of them are significant in this one, but only 2 in this one, because they've got a couple of zeros at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 significant figures. Okay, so decimals, don't count at the beginning, count at the end and in the middle, plus all the other numbers that are not zero. Okay, there's no decimal point. You don't, let's see, let's go 532,000. Okay, so with ones without a decimal point, you don't count the ones at the end. These ones, not counted. They are in with decimal, no decimal point in a number, don't count the ones at the end. So this one has 3. Okay. And the same with the decimals. If there's one in the middle, you count that as well. So 502120. This one is counted, plus all the other non-zeros, but not that one. Don't count the ones at the end if there's no decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 significant figures. So that's how many significant figures. Difference between where there's a decimal point and where there's not. And then the next one, the rounding, we'll do in a minute. Okay. So knowing that what we do, let's have a go with, that should be going, okay, white's okay. Let's have a look at the significant figures in each one of these. We'll write out a couple. Let's have a look at the ones with decimal points. So part B, the significant figures are only 2 of them because you don't count the one at the end. And there's no zeros at the end, so you can't count them. So part B has 2. Where's another one with decimal point? Part D. So you count the ones in the middle and the ones at the end. For D, there's nothing in the beginning, so don't worry about that. There's nothing at the end, don't worry about that. But there are 3 in the middle, so you include them. So you count everything. The 4, because that's not 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 significant figures for D. Remember, decimals, you don't count the zeros at the beginning, but you do at the end and in the middle. E. That one has zeros at the beginning that you don't count. So the only significant one in E is 5. One significant figure. So you get the idea. We'll do G, and that we'll move on to the non-decimal numbers. We've got zeros at the beginning, don't count. But we do count the 2 and that one in the middle, the 0 and the 7. All three of them. 1, 2, 3. Don't count the 3 at the start. 3 significant figures. Okay, let's do a couple. These out decimals. Part A. That one has no zeros anywhere, so you count all of them. 3. C. 15,000 has lots of zeros at the end, which you don't count. So in numbers that are not decimal, don't count the zeros at the end. So you only count the 1 and the 5. 2 significant figures. 5,000 is only 1 because there's zeros at the end. And we've got, oops, mistake. Let's get rid of that. Okay, we're going up to, what's the next one? 89072. Well, no zeros at the beginning or the end, but we've got 1 in the middle. So that one counts just like it does in the decimals. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that will do. So remember, decimals, don't count the beginning, don't count. But count the ones at the end. Don't count the beginning ones. Don't count the beginning ones. Don't count the beginning, but you do the one at the end. So that is 2. And one's in the middle. When there's no decimal point, you count the ones in the middle, but not the ones at the end. So this one here, that only has 2 significant figures. All those other 6 zeros you don't count. Okay, that's question 2. Round each number to 3 significant figures. So 2A, 3 significant figures. There's no zeros at the beginning, so we count everything. 1, 2, 3 gets us to there. 37.6. You have to be careful with this one. I'll just do that in white. 37.6. That's 3 significant figures. So we're rounding. Part B. 3 significant figures. The first 3, 9, 4, 3. But the fourth one is a 5. So we have to round up like we would normally with any other rounding. So that gets rounded up. Oh, plus you've got to add the 0. Because 9, 4, 3, 5, yeah, rounds up to 9, 4, 4, 0. 3 significant figures. You don't count the one at the end. Why do we not put this in this one? Because they're counted. That would make that 5 significant figures. So in decimals, you do count the ones at the end. So we can't put them if we're rounding to a specific number. Okay. C. Well, I've got a decimal. There's no zeros in sight, but we only want 3 significant figures, so we can't put zeros at the end. 168, and that's a 3, so it stays at 168. If you did this, that would make it 4 significant figures, because in decimals you count the ones at the end. Okay. D. Okay, D. Decimal, count the ones at the end, and we want 3, so that'll be 2.81. That's a 3, so it gets rounded down. So we don't add zeros because they're counted. That's only 3 significant figures. E, 15.99. that looks like it's going to go 1, 5, 6. Sorry, once that goes up. And we want 3 significant figures, 1, 5, 9. Tricky one because the 9 goes up. And that goes up. So it'll be 16.0. So that one, let's be careful of that one with the 9s because the rounding up carries forward. 1, 5, that's the first 3, 1, 5, 9. But you have to round it up and that would take it up to 1.6 here. 3 significant figures still, that's what we want, that's all good. F. 60522, so the 3 significant figures are 605. And we can't add zeros this time because they don't count. 605, 3 significant figures, and the other 2 go down to 0. Remember, they don't count, so that's still just 3 significant figures. I think you get the idea of that one. Right-ish number to correct to 2 significant figures, so it's the same deal. I'll just do a couple of these. So remember, we can add zeros when there's not a decimal, but we can't when there is. Okay, 2 significant figures. Don't count the zeros at the beginning of a decimal. And we want 6, 3, but that's 7, so that could go up to 6, 4, rounding up. I'll just do a couple of these. E, we still want only 2 significant figures, they don't count. So 7, 6 are the 2 significant figures. And it stays as 7, 6. And we can't add zeros at the end. 2 significant figures, 2 significant figures. Let's go I. 0, can't count that one. So that stays 3, 1. Significant figures, yes, the 2 of them. And that's 4, so that's okay, stays at 3, 1. Don't add any more zeros because they count. So that's only 2. Okay. Question 4. 45,067,853. See 3 significant figures. Now remember, with numbers without decimals, you can add zeros at the end because they don't count. So we want 3 significant figures. So we're going to do the first 3, 4, 5, 0. But the next number is a 6, so that'll have to go to 4, 5, 1, round up. 4, 5, 1. 4, 5, 1. Then we had the zeros, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the one, that's that one. That's just, yep, that's better. The only 3 significant figures. Which one's that one? 4, 5 with 5 zeros. That one. Okay, be careful of these ones. When you don't have a decimal point, you really must add zeros at the end to make it correct. So you end up with the same amount of digits as the original. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Yep. So be careful of that one. Question 5. All right. 0.005605 rounded to 2 significant figures. All right, let's do a bit of red. They all don't count. 5 does, and the 6 does. And that does, and that does. So we only want 2. So it's all these zeros don't count, but we must include them. 5, 6. That's 2. The next number is a 0, so that stays. Don't add any more zeros like you do here. That looks like it's that one. Okay. 1 significant figure, so you get the idea. the difference between when a number has a decimal and one that doesn't. So can we do a decimal one and a non-decimal one? Let's go part B for a decimal one and part I for a non-decimal. One significant figure. Part B, 5712. There's 4 significant figures there. We've got to get down to 1. And tricky. I see. Got me caught here a little bit. Okay. 57, one significant figure. Okay, so I've got to qualify what I said before, but we got 4, so the first one's 5. But they're followed by 7, which makes it got to be 6. Now that's not the right answer. Even though there's a decimal point there, we've got to put a 0 before we get to the decimal point. Yep. So I should say that numbers to the right of the decimal point, you don't add. The ones to the left you can. Okay, so 60 is one significant figure rounded of that one. Tricky. Okay. I, one significant figure. Where we got at the moment 8. No. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. We want 1. And so the first one is 5, but the next number is 6, so we have to round that up to 6. And then we add the zeros till we get the same number of digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, okay. So a couple of things to remember about significant figures and rounding. With this one, you remember you're allowed to add zeros at the end. In fact, you must to end up with the same number of digits. Doesn't matter with decimals. And you can add ones before the decimal point. Okay, last one, number 9. A total of 21,558 people attended a football match. Express this to 3 significant figures. Well, our first 3 are 2, 1 and 5. So that next number is a 5, so that's got to go to 216. No decimal, so we need to add the zeros to end up with the same number of digits. 5 digits. There's your answer. Okay. Scientific notation. Okay. Let's have a look. In fact, I think I might save that one for the next video. Thanks everyone.